I'm 8.5 months pregnant with a daughter, and never in a million years did I think that I would have to fight for a basic fundamental right for myself and for her.
Right now, you can't force a corpse to give up its organs without paperwork, but you can force me to have a baby I don't want.
I think that, taking this step backwards, we now need my generation, people my age, to step up and fight so that we're not going back in time, because it's 2022. We don't need to go back to the 70s, to the 60s. We can't go back. It's time to move forward.
Steely determination, and it's what we're going to need to keep fighting this by supporters of abortion rights at protests all across the country, starting Friday night and over the weekend, as we witness and live in the first few days of a post-Roe America. From the New York Times, quote, the expanding battle over abortion set off by the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe versus Wade is moving to state courts and legislatures, with the Florida judge scheduled today to hear a challenge under state law to a ban taking effect this week. California lawmakers are preparing to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot to protect reproductive rights. On the ground in Mississippi, at the abortion clinic at the center of all of this, there was a scramble to help ensure that those who want an abortion can still get one. More from the Times, quote, outside the clinic, abortion opponents discussed how their churches might do a better job spreading the message of abstinence in a state with the nation's highest teen pregnancy rate. Supporters of abortion access, meanwhile, are working to create a network of donors, volunteers, educators, and even pilots to help women in the nation's poorest state travel to places where the procedure remains legal. Joining our coverage, Kimberly Atkins-Storr, senior opinion writer and columnist for the Boston Globe. She's also a senior columnist for The Emancipator, a project with the Globe focusing on racial equity and justice. Alexi McCammon is here, political reporter for Axios, and Claire is with us for the hour, all are MSNBC contributors. Kim, I've wanted to talk to you since this news broke Friday. I'm so happy to see you today. First, what were you watching this weekend? It was too much for me. I had to sort of dole out my news bites in bits and doses, but I wonder if you can just tell me what struck you of the weekend.
Yeah, what I've been thinking most about are a couple things. One, the fact that if the idea was to reduce the number of abortions in this nation, that when you look at the data, actually abortions went down after Obamacare passed, when there was increased access to contraception coverage for insurers. When women have access to contraception, they're able to make decisions about their lives, you see abortions drop. What you've seen recently is an uptick of abortions in the country for the first time in decades, and that corresponds to these bans being passed. So that says to me, these bans are not about reducing or ending abortion, because it doesn't do that. It does make it less available to the most vulnerable, and it does make it more dangerous. But to me, this felt squarely about control. This feels a part of a political campaign that has been in the making for decades to try to turn back the clock, to try to exert control over women's bodies, and to try to return, as the young people in the clip you just showed, the nation to a time past when women were in their place, Black and brown folks were in their place. It's part and parcel of all of this. And that's the part that really is, at the pit of my stomach.
Yeah, the pit of the stomach has had a lot of attention lately here, too. Alexi, this is not an issue that divides Americans equally. It's not a 50-50 issue. This isn't even like our political sort of team splits where you've got, enough people voting for the Democrat and the Republican that our elections are close. 63, I think, to 70% of Americans were for keeping abortion legal in some form. What do you make of what has been put into motion politically and from activists and from women and from younger voters in terms of paying attention?
So many things, and Kimberly just brought up a good point, that I think the larger message being sent by Republicans enacting these bans is one of overreach. And you hear Democrats kind of making that long-term message about how they feel it's Republicans overreaching and, denying you your own privacy. It starts with reproductive rights. They say it'll continue with other things. And so it is, in some ways, going back to a different time that people don't want. But the interesting thing that I'm hearing politically, and I've not heard this in any other cycle that I've covered before. But today I was having a conversation with folks about state Supreme Courts, people understanding the importance of electing people to your state Supreme Court to be able to challenge your state's constitution. There's a number of litigation going on around the country right now in places like Utah, Louisiana, folks trying to ask their states whether and how their state constitution can provide some sort of protection in light of overturning Roe by the Supreme Court. So the political activism that we're seeing in this moment already is folks being educated about the positions that matter, getting out and organizing, as you've shown, Cliff, and really understanding what this is all about, which isn't just healthcare.
Claire, you have been taking us to school since I think it was late last summer when the Texas vigilante law was first passed about what would happen in Missouri if Roe were overturned in the Dobbs case. I have this map. I found this with you in mind. These are places where abortion access post-Dobbs, where they're banned or mostly banned right away. Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Texas, Utah. Within a month, Idaho, Mississippi, North Dakota, Tennessee, Wyoming. Likely to ban or considering bans, Georgia, Indiana, Iowa, South Carolina, West Virginia. Uncertain fate, Arizona, Florida, Kansas, Michigan, Montana, Nebraska, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Wisconsin. And then likely to be protected is everything in blue. When you see it like this, it is so out of reach and unrealistic to think that telling women they can travel or be protected legally if they try to do something that's illegal in their states will help them. And I wonder, you were so exquisitely raw on Friday and still productive and eloquent, but I wonder your thoughts after a weekend to sleep on this.
Well, what I did this weekend was read the Missouri law, and I will tell you, I am ashamed of myself that I hadn't really looked at the Missouri law in detail. Along with, I think, most Americans who care about this constitutional right that was torn away, that was ripped from our grasp last week, hadn't really looked to see what these folks have been up to, anticipating this day. And in my state, and this is the law right now, not only can they prosecute women for taking the morning after pill after they've been raped, not only can they mandate a 13-year-old victim of rape by her father carry her sibling to term, they're lying about it. The governor actually put out a statement saying women were protected from being prosecuted under this law, and it's just not true. It is absolutely not true. The way the law is written, a woman can be prosecuted if by any means, taking a drug or using a device, by any means, she does something that makes it more likely that there's not a live birth. In other words, it's like a reverse intention thing. And, they put a throwaway line in there that she can't be prosecuted for conspiracy, but nothing about whether or not she can be prosecuted for the actual crime or as an accessory. And as a former prosecutor, I mean, the criminal instructions write themselves. So I've been talking to experts in statutory construction. I've been talking to current prosecutors in Missouri, and I've talked to a lot of them I respect a lot, and all of us agree that not only are rapists having more power today than their victims in Missouri, but women can be prosecuted under the Missouri law for something as simple as using an IUD or taking a morning after pill because they prevent implantation.
Claire, what is the emergency response? I mean, is there an effort to set up a legal defense fund or a stable of lawyers to defend those women? Or what do we do right now?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of the Republican prosecutors are saying behind the scenes that they don't think women can be prosecuted. The governor said women can't be prosecuted. But, in this bill, a zygote, a one-celled organism is a person. A one-celled organism is a person. So it is really going to be interesting because, there's going to be a wackadoodle prosecutor somewhere in Missouri who's going to be brought a case. And whether it is a woman who has gotten the morning after pill, knowing she's pregnant, and then somebody tells on her, and they take the evidence to the prosecutor, and they put severance in the statute. And for those lawyers out there, what that means is they wrote a provision in the bill that part of it that's unconstitutional can be taken out of the bill, and the rest of it remains. So a lot of the language mirrors Griswold. I think they're going to plan on taking this up to try to challenge Griswold. That's what I think, based on how it's written.
To try to take away a right to contraception.
Correct. To chip away at the ability of a woman to get a morning after pill or IUD, because these people, these extreme people that are now in control, these minority of people that are in control, see anything that prevents implantation of a single cell organism that is an egg that's been fertilized. They see that as the taking of a life and murder. So that's where we're going here. And it will impact not only contraception, but it'll also have a dramatic impact in my state on the ability to have a baby through in vitro fertilization.